Hey, yo, what's up? It's your boy Chanda and Mbao, and we're back with another episode of Zambian Hip-Hop History. I'm very excited for the guest that we have today, somebody who I know is a treasure trove of knowledge, a treasure trove of Zambian hip-hop history and stories. And so I'm really, really glad to speak with this gentleman. Happens to be a gentleman who I met through their capacity on the executive side of music, but has a much longer and layered journey in the industry. So we're looking forward to doing this today, having a wonderful sit down with the man himself by the name of Superman. Pleasure to meet you,
hey,
man.
Pleasure to be here. Although the intro has really put a lot of pressure on me. But yeah, let's get it though. So yeah, pleasure to be here. Hope to share what I can share with you guys. Yeah. So.
No, man, thank you, man. As mentioned, this is a labor of love. As we, shared some stories on the ride over here.
Yeah.
I think we both must have had a similar moment, and I guess it happens for every young hip hop person.
Yeah.
Where in their youth, there's this I don't know if it's a eureka moment or something that just clicks in you, and you're like, man, I really have a passion for this. So I think that's one thing that definitely unites us. I know we're both passionate about hip hop. And so this is for that, man. This is, our little project to try and document, record what people such as yourself have done in Zambian hip hop history. We obviously were so well aware about what's going on over there, so well aware about the epicenter, but we've now got to a point where I believe we're creating our own history that we need to record, celebrate, archive, and pass on, So thank you for being here and spending some time with us, man. And I'd love to just go through your journey, man. Today is all about you. So, so if we can maybe take it back to the beginning, man, how Superman fell in love with hip hop.
Okay, first of all, I really appreciate what you guys are doing with this program. I think hip hop in Zambia needed this really. I'm honored, privileged, and all that other good stuff to be on this show. So my journey, I think my journey started in 1993. I was listening to, I had a tape, I had a Will Smith tape, and I remember the one particular song that stood out for me was Boom, Shake, Shake the Room, you know what I mean? Or it was Boom, Shake the Room, but I remember it was Boom, Shake, Shake, Shake the Room, So I was listening to it one night in my aunt's kitchen in the Copper Belt.
Yeah.
I was visiting her and listening to it, and I was like, oh, I like this song. And so I played it the first time, and then I sort of discovered that I had a gift of memorizing things.
The lyrics.
Like it would take like maybe two, 3 listens.
Wow.
And I would memorize the lyrics. But not only would I memorize the lyrics, in the time that I didn't know the lyrics, I would usually complete the sentence before the rapper completed the sentence, because then my understanding or my love for rhymes, so someone would say something, I'm like, so it's gonna finish with
it?
So that really made hip-hop interesting for me, because I wanted to listen to songs just to complete the songs, the rhymes and everything, and the verse. So but for me, that was the record that made me believe that I could rap. And so funny story is you met me through music, executive management and everything, but I started out as a rapper. So really interesting. And so after that record, I know I listened to Doggy Style, I listened to almost everything that was there in hip hop. I remember, I think that record also was a 93 record.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So at that time I started discovering myself, and then I discovered that I loved hip hop. And I started writing. So I would write, and then my parents were really involved in church, and they had a lot of musical instruments, and the guys used to come and rehearse from home. And so there was a keyboard that was there, and you could program a beat into it. So that's where my first thing was there, and I learned to play some keys on that, and then I would let maybe a drum pattern just play. I'd be like, okay, this is my joint, and I'll pretend I'm in my room. We had a bunk bed, so I'd sit on top of the bunk bed and pretend everything down there was people. So then I was rapping for people. And yeah, I think that's where my love, it sounds weird. Or
no,
funny, but yeah,
man. Everything is we all have
it's
that
just,
story,
for
bro.
me, even just telling this story here, man, I go back there, I'm just like, yo, man, take me back to those days because, you know, so yeah. I think fast forward, I would rap. First time I rapped was in church.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out because we all froze, bro.
Oh yeah.
Like there was 3 of us and we froze.
Yeah.
And then fast forward,
his palms are sweaty.
Yeah. Literally.
His weak
and
arms
we were
are
just
heavy.
standing there like, and the whole church is looking. And I was like, oh, so these people didn't say anything. And I was like, it's probably because it's church. Because it's just like, okay, nobody encourage you. You know how church goes. I was like, oh, okay. And I felt some type of way about it.
Yeah.
And then we had, maybe I think 2 years after that, we had a Christmas event at church.
Yeah.
And everyone said, this guy can rap. This guy can rap. And I'm like, no, I can't. Didn't you see me last time? But I had still been writing.
Yeah.
So I got a Christmas carol and I flipped it around.
Wow, okay.
And I got one of the drummer guys to do something on it, and I got one of the guys and I said, fill in this, but switch it to this. So I thought about it. I was young, and I put all that together.
The pieces together. Production.
So, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, this is dope. And then we did the song and it was crazy. It was church, but the Sunday school girls loved me after that. So I was like, oh, this is where it starts, you know what I mean? And so that's, for me, that was the defining moment, because the response from the church at that time, after I had failed, showed me that, okay, if you put your mind to it, nothing's impossible. So, yeah. Wow,
that's really dope, man. That's really dope. So do you play an instrument like now, still today? Or?
I can play guitar and I can kind of play keyboard. I'm not great at guitar, by the way, but I play well enough to say, oh, Chanda, listen to this thing, let's do this. And then I'll say, let's get someone that can actually play it for us. So I like to believe I'm very musical. Yeah, because I used to produce music as well, and then now I executive produce. So the music is in me. So.
No, that's very dope, man. And so I guess, you know, one thing that would be dope, because that's a really dope picture of where the love started. What would be nice to hear is, when did that? So there's the passion. You've described the boom shake the room, and you kind of being the ignition to the spark, you know, that kind of set off the journey. And then the first steps of the journey were in church, as you mentioned. When was the first time that, I guess, you had maybe commercial participation in some way, shape, or form? Whether it was like, I don't know, selling a mixtape to a friend, or a show that, like, you know, brought in maybe some small money for you as a kid or whatever. But when was, like, you know, when did it become like, man, like, this is something I should dedicate significant amount of time to, you know what I mean? Not just.
The interesting thing is that happened to me when I was in the USA.
Okay.
Yeah, so I lived across, or not across, but near someone that was a rapper. Okay. And for me, this guy, he was known around the hood, but for me, I was just like, oh, a rapper from America, and he likes me, like him and his wife or his girlfriend. They were like, oh, this guy is the king of Zamunda. That's what they called me. So I was like, oh yeah, these guys are cool. Yeah. And I would always hang out there. Then I discovered he had a studio in his apartment. And then I said I used to rap. Obviously, I wasn't half as good as him, because America, rappers, you know what I mean? So, but the way he said to me, I like how your accent is not so American, but you're very adept at, you're smart, you know all these things, so I like to rap with you. And so I used to record him, and then he would take me to shows, and he would say, I'm bringing out the Prince of Zamunda. Because Zambia, and people would go crazy. So I did a bunch of shows in some of these places, and the love that I got from people was just like, oh, so I can do this. And if I can do it here, I can do it back home. And I can do it back home on a better stage because I have some of the experience from here. And I've been able to see maybe how the setup is so I can go and advise when I go back to Zambia. And so, I think that's the time that defined that moment for me. So as soon as I came back to Zambia for my first holiday, it was like, oh, okay, this guy. And then I was like, I chill with these guys and he raps. And then I was playing his stuff and they started playing that stuff on radio with me on it.
Wow.
And then I still wasn't sure at that point, but when I flew back to the USA, this guy got a call from one of Dr. Dre's understudies or something like that. So we actually drove down to see Dr. Dre's studio, and he paid a lot of money, but he recorded a song with some of like the upcoming artists from there. But for me to just be in that space, in that space, and to see Dre walk past and just say, "Hey guys," I was like, yo, I swear, man, bro, like everything changed. Like I just felt like now no one can tell me anything because Dr. Dre said what's up to me. And so even when I was coming back to Zambia, my mindset was like, okay, I'm a bit more advanced. I saw Dr. Dre. I saw his studio. We could do that here.
Do it,
We can replicate some of that stuff. And I guess I hooked up with Chifumbe Skazwe. I was dating his sister.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was dating his sister. It's a funny story. Yeah, well, I was dating his sister, and then she, at that point, I had met Mampi. And Mampi was like, this guy has just come back from the USA. He knows a few things. I'd like him to be my manager. So that was the first time I tried my hand out at management. And it worked out.
Oh, wow. That was the first time.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay.
And I think I was with her for maybe about 2 of some of her most successful years. So in the time that I was trying that, people begin to notice that I had some sort of knowledge about music. And so they started to gravitate towards me. But then I would rap as well. So I would rap. And so this girl said to me, oh, my brother and his boys rap. So I was like, oh, okay. But you know how it is when you're that guy, you're just like, it must be just another bunch of those guys.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is my girlfriend, so I'm gonna try and hear these guys out and see what I can do with them. And so she brought about 5-6 guys. And among those guys, there was Critic, there was K-Star, there was a guy called Thugger, not Jim Thugger, but the other Thug Child.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and those guys happened to be in a close circle with Camster, K-Num, the Zone Fam guys before they were Zone Fam. It was interesting. If you come to think of all the Uncle D, David Linyama, and all the events that we used to have at these places. And, he was very supportive. So for me, that really defined, because then I started to get exposed to like the real hip hop side. Actually, before that, I was good friends with Crisis, was like my cousin. We always said, we were cousins and everything. So I would hang out with Crisis, and I remember being like, oh wow, this dude, the first official hip hop tape that was recognized. I know a lot of people beg to differ because there was Cypher Studios and everything, and they had some things going on, but they might not have been as recognized as Crisis. But at that point for me, that was so even to meet up with him. So I started linking up with that hip hop circle. And it was nice to I know I missed out a lot of it because I was out of the country,
yeah.
but to come back and then I just start catching
straight
up on
into it,
you know, and then there were all the battles at the soccer playhouse, and then you hear, oh, there was beef, they ran over this guy's foot, they did this, and I'm like, that's the level we're at in Zambia.
East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah, but coming from where I had been in the USA and to come and watch some of the guys do what they were doing, I was amazed, man. The hip hop culture was just like, I was like, wow. And at that moment, I decided I wanted in. Initially I started out rapping.
Yeah.
But at a point when I started hanging out with a lot of these rappers, a lot of them started to gravitate towards me as a leader. And so that started to define that leadership role. Because I was one of them, bro. Like I was one of them, but everyone would be like, okay, so
what should we do?
Yeah, if I want advice on how to do this, how do I do this? And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and then the culmination of that was when we created So Good. We create So Good. And then
when was that? When was the creation of So Good?
So Good was maybe 2009, 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, 2010 actually.
Wow.
2010,
Okay.
So I'll skip back and forth
no
because
worries.
I'm going as I remember
worries,
things.
of course.
But I remember when we created So Good.
Yeah.
We had an issue with a studio in Villa that we were recording out of, and I remember, like I said, for me, I was amazed. Critic, everything. I was like, wow, man. I heard some of his stuff, and I was like, this guy, way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Like K-Star, he was witty. He was a bit. All of them were a bit rough around the edges. So in my mind, I was like, these guys just need a bit of chiseling, a little polishing.
Yeah.
And so we used to go to a studio, and we had a bit of a misunderstanding with that studio, and we were chased. So when we were chased, my dad saw some depression creeping in, and he said to me, "Hey, do you need help? Do you need what's really going on?" And I said, "I need some studio equipment. You know, like we need a studio." And my dad said, "Well, I don't have that much money, but I'll put something together, and this is what we can do." And I remember talking to, I don't know if you know Taz, a dude called Taz. He owns Goemi Records. Yeah, so Chaz had a brother that used to travel to South Africa, and he used to deal in computers and everything. He had a studio called G Sounds. And so he had the basic idea. Oh yeah, I can get you an M audio sound card. I'll do this. I'll do this. And so he went. I got the money from my dad and a bit of money from Chifumbe. Which helped him now become like, okay, the other guy at So Good, because okay, these guys put the money into this, and the equipment came. And when the equipment came, I remember sitting there, and we had James Sakala, we had Grant Mutema, we had a bunch of people, bro. Like and then everyone was just like, bro, we want you to be in charge. We want you to run this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I felt like I needed to rise up to the occasion. So I said, okay, let's do it. And I still used to rap. I have some of the records that I rapped on, actually. The first records from So Good. And the response from DJ Scratch, Jamil Banda, from Fanatic, from all those guys that were on radio was crazy. And I remember everyone just like, wow, these guys, this new studio is just taking Zambia by storm. I remember bumping into KB and him telling me like, KB was doing K-Army at that time, and I used to like, KB is dope. So for KB to say to me, you guys are doing, like, just keep doing what you're doing, because out of all people, I'm expecting great things from you guys. And so I started the leadership role more. I know Critic and K-Star used to rap, but I started getting more involved in their rap. So I would say, look, man, when I was watching battles in the USA, these are some of the things that we did. And so we even ended up creating we had a card trick with Critic where he used to rap with cards. It was crazy, man. We had the freestyle props, and we would just throw things in front of him, and he would just go. Like we mastered some of that.
The showmanship.
The showmanship, and it was really interesting because we went to a lot of battles, and by the time I was finished with them, those guys were like some of the best, if not the best at that time. The best battle rappers. And I feel like that started to invite or to entice a lot of people to want to be involved with us.
That's so good, man.
I remember, I think we made the first legit hip-hop mixtape, Cash Rolls, the main event. I say that because that tape had everyone. Had the hoster, it had every hip-hop DJ, first of all.
Yeah.
We used them for the intros, but we had people from every corner, every group. We brought in Italic before he was doing the whole magician thing. We had the Street Bangers, Immaculate, Dagger, E-Chronic. You know, so we had XYZ, we had Slap D and Rough Kids, we had B-Mac, we had we had everyone. We had Zone Fam, we even had Cactus, we had everyone. So it was massive.
And that was their first mixtape.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the response from that and the ability to put people together, even people that had differences, and the ability to figure out who needed to be on which track was just something that a lot of people came to me and said, you've got an ear for this. You've got, you know. And I think for me that was really interesting. So, and then of course we did records with Salma, Wonderful World, Grant and Eddie wrote that, and the response from that was ridiculous. I remember the response from that was crazy.
That's all.
And at that particular time, Roy Mbazima, 5'4", he was like my cousin. Yeah. But we lived pretty much next door to each other in North Mead. So every time they'd just be like, but you'd meet him and he'll just be like, hey, what's up, big bro? What's up? Yeah. And so I know he had tried to rap, and he had the whole Pitch Black thing going on. And so I spoke to him, and I just said, look, man, I think we could, I've got a pretty strong roster, and I think you would add value to the roster. So it was like, okay, I haven't done music for a while, because he had stopped for a bit. And so I just, I got him on the label, and we did the first record. That was Niweweka with Salma.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I remember telling him, I said, look, bro, we're gonna have to, like, it's gonna have to be a bit softer than
your usual.
Yeah, than your usual. But the interesting thing is the people that were working at the studio, like James. Yeah. James also had that mindset. He had also been trained to do that. So he also said, look, man, what we've recorded, forget about that. But I want you to make love to this song, to the beat. I want you to really just enjoy it. Yeah. Bro, that record is timeless. Yeah, that's timeless. Like, everything was perfect.
It still plays on radio. I hear it every for every couple of months or something. I'll hear it still playing today. So
I think a little part of my journey that I may have forgotten was again, before So Good and everything was there, I don't know if you know Charlie Mulalami. Yeah. They call him Charlie Bravo, Sling Beats.
Exactly, yeah.
So I went to record at first at Sling Beats, and when I went to record, we had a track. Yeah. And then I remember doing an advert, the first voiceover conversation back to back for Zamtel. Was it Zamtel at that time? I don't know if it was Zamtel at that time. With Abel Chungu's older brother Musuka, who's my cousin. Okay. So we did that, and then Charlie was like, "Oh, you guys, you should hang around here, often." And because I had traveled a lot and my parents thought I was responsible, I usually, even at a young age, I usually had the car. You know, so I would go park at this studio and I would be the guy that would carry everyone. And I remember Charlie at that point didn't have a car. So there would be some shows for Sling Beats that he would just say, oh, there's a show today, and then I would drive artists like Daddy So Manam Komboni, what. So I was taking those people around before anything was popping, bro.
Wow.
Before anything was popping.
Wow.
And that's where I met people like John D, Jay Young, Toxic, you know, and for me, it was just sad that those guys were so ahead of their time, but they never got the recognition that they should have got, because I know I had Toxic on a cypher a few years ago, and he held his own, like, against people that, like some of these new cats. And so you just sit and wonder and be like, why did this guy never make it? Because he had projects for days, bro. Like, he had projects for days. So that was another moment, because I met people in Zambia that could rap the way I wanted to listen to rap, you know, because, you know, so of course there was a lot of chit chat and back talk about how everyone was trying to be like the West or anything, but which is why I tried to now add an element, like with Niweweka, I had the element of how we had the very African sounding guitar, and then we had the chorus, we had the chorus in Bemba, we had Salma do that, just to try and see if we packaged it like that, will people accept it more? And they started to accept it. So for me, that was another interesting part of the journey. I mean, my journey just gets weird because there's a part in my journey where we had no studio, but where, like, I had taught like Critic and all these guys, and Critic would write in like 3 minutes, bro. Put a beat, it would have a 16 in 3 minutes, like just like that. Critic was. So we mastered that, and then when we got chased from the studio, Crisis said, okay, well, you guys can come and record here, provided I'm on the song. So like, oh, okay, cool, you know. So then he was like, I'll give you guys 1 hour, because the studio is very busy. And we would record a song in like 20 minutes. Because we wanted studio time that bad, and it meant that much to us, that in that little window of opportunity we would record that. So I think that was some of the journey. So I used to hang around there a lot. I was even there, ironically, when the whole beef between them and Zone Fam started. And I remember being part of the people that were okaying Tim coming to record a verse on that song that was dissing the guys. So it was, of course, at that point in time, there was a lot of the direction was a bit it wasn't. It was all over the place. So it was like, oh yeah, I was in the USA, I met Dr. Dre, so I can bring that gangster mentality here. So we got Crisis, we've got the Dogs and everything. So I mean, we were growing up, man. So
of course.
I kind of feel bad that I was there, because I chose the beat on which that song went on, and it was called Diamond Chainsaw and everything. And I know from that point in time, it fueled a lot of things, because then it would be, you meet at the mall and the guys. But I mean, I quickly detached myself from that. So I became non-partisan. I became non-partisan.
Theme of the week.
So I quickly, I'm neither on this side or on this side. You know, it is what it is. So I'd throw that in there.
That's a good one.
I think